That feels real bad. Coming from the religious background I came from, there was a lot of mixed messages about do and don't, and this is wrong and that's right. And, well, the flesh was evil. The flesh was wicked. And so you didn't want to indulge yourself in the flesh or give over to the flesh.
They typically can be accomplished within about 20 minutes time.
And how long did this one take?
About 40? About 40 minutes.
A new article in the British Medical Journal by Ray Moynihan launched a debate about whether female sexual dysfunction was an actual disease. So what got you writing this story?
A friend of mine sent me a press release that she'd got from a company called Vivus. Alista, New Hope for Sexual Healing for Women. And it's from the Investor Relations Group. Is this about money or medicine? There's this talk here of 43% of women suffering from this dysfunction. And that really, that triggered alarm bells.
It's a secret epidemic that 43% of American women experience some kind of sexual dysfunction.
43% of women suffer from what is now called female sexual dysfunction.
Here's the actual paper that was in the Journal of the American Medical Association that first launched this 43% figure on the world. It's based on a survey from the early 90s. Women were asked a series of questions about common sexual difficulties that they might experience. If they answered yes to any of these problems, they were put into a box that said female sexual dysfunction. And that's how you get to the 43% figure. Ed Lauman, the sociologist from Chicago who did this survey, he himself says that a lot of these 43% of women are perfectly normal. That's his words. And that a lot of their problems arise out of perfectly reasonable responses of the human organism to challenges and stress. A correction appears in a subsequent issue of the journal disclosing that those authors had financial ties to Pfizer. The pharmaceutical industry, through a whole range of very sophisticated PR and marketing strategies, is actually changing how we all think about our bodies, about our health, and about our diseases. Essentially, you're turning healthy people into patients.
How does one effectively protest against the existence of a disease? New York University professor of psychiatry Leonore Tiefer was trying to figure that out fast.
I'm going after the pharmaceutical industry because I just got really upset with the hunt for the pink Viagra, and I thought, well, over my dead body, and I'm going to just do something about this. We know the truth. There isn't a pill for everything. What I'm concerned about is that there is a shift going on in the meaning of sexuality in the culture towards this commodified, individualized thing that has a normal level, and that if you don't experience it in that way, there is something wrong with you, and you need medical help. I just want to say it ain't so simple. It's different for different people. I like the idea that desire is a co-created phenomenon. rather than it being an internal thing. It's kind of like friendship. You don't walk around, how many times in the last month did you have the friendship feeling? You know, friendship is something that happens between people. And I think sex is something that happens between people.
Leonore Tiefer runs the New View campaign with its hundreds of members from her small apartment in Manhattan.
How is your campaign going to stop the FDA from approving a drug for FSD?
The FDA hearing, the public is going to hear from us, hopefully, as well as from others, that you need to prove that there's a disorder, and you need to prove that your drug is safe, and you need to prove that your drug is effective. And we're going to go down there and try to throw a roadblock in front of their steamroller.
What's wrong with a drug that helps women achieve a better sex life?
It's not just the drug. It's the drug in the context of the advertising, of the lack of education, of the lack of regulation. I think it's a manufactured term to create a market for drugs.
While Leonore used the airwaves to spread her message, medical experts pushed the concept of female sexual dysfunction.
Actually, there are more sexual dysfunctions in women than there are in men.
This is Viagra. This is actually a sample pack, but these, ta-da.
Most of the medical experts had financial ties to the pharmaceutical industry, but did not disclose them.
And Viagra is useful in a smaller subsection of women, but it can improve blood flow and lubrication to women who have that as a problem.
Now there was a movement.
Our proposed indication, as you've heard, is for the treatment of hypoactive sexual desire disorder.
And a counter-movement.
Assessing sexual experience is subtle and complex. Every study must be closely examined for what they leave out.
The two sides were really duking it out.
Look at this.
And it remained to be seen who would define women's sexuality in the 21st century.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you to Salt Lake City. Local time here is 11:06.
In the midst of the battle, Vivas arranged a luxurious ski trip in Utah for the doctors who ran their clinical trials. There they plan to announce the long-awaited results of the clinical trial of Alista, the same one that featured the erotic videos that I edited.
You know, they come and they relax, they get an opportunity to do some skiing. The one good thing that you do establish at a meeting like this is you establish the relationships. And so once you have the relationships in place, you can play on those.
Come on, sing with me.
The words, there just are no words for how good this drug will be once it becomes on the market. The best. These are the people that make it happen. Yay!
I get up at 6:30 every morning and I work until 9 o'clock every night, all for the bettering of female sexual dysfunction. We gotta go. It's time. It's showtime.
At the last minute, a senior executive banned my camera from the meeting. I managed to attend anyway and discovered that Alista was not doing nearly as well as they'd hoped.
It was interesting. What we found in this study was that even when you gave patients placebo, when you showed them visual stimulation, their levels of overall sexual satisfaction in general went up.
So you basically discovered women like porn. Yeah, so porn works. Porn works. It's not, the panacea for solving all your sexual troubles, but it does elicit sexual responses.
Despite the high success rate with the placebo and the plain fact that porn works, Vivas decided to continue their clinical trials of Alista.
You can ask questions of patients that are very simple questions on the surface of things, but small changes in how you ask a question can lead to sometimes very significant changes in the answers that you get to a question.
It's just that improvement is different than enhancement.
And there is a little difference.
We knew that there might be some sort of a small difference. That looks like a big difference. The data never lies.
Back in North Carolina, Dr. Malloy was wrapping up the clinical trial of the Orgasmatron.
I'm waiting for my second visit with Dr. Malloy. It's not working for me very well. And if you want to come closer, I'll demonstrate for you. It's working in this leg, watch. I said I'm not much good unless you like to be kicked in the behind. I had a feeling they were going to take it out today.
Were you able to get close? Not able.
And I tried every position you can imagine on that. Well, I'm disappointed.
In your clinical trial, how many women did the Orgasmatron work on?
We've succeeded in stimulating 8 out of 9, but we've not been able to maintain the electrode in but 6. And of those 6, it's worked in 4. We were able to stimulate 91% of the women, 10 out of 11.
But at this point, I just give up. I mean, it's okay. I accept myself the way I am. There are lots of ways to achieve orgasm other than just to have sexual intercourse. And
Can I just ask you a question? Can you achieve orgasm through other means?
yes, I can. Yes, I can. So I'm not without orgasms. I can have orgasms, but it's just not the normal situation where two people get together and they have sexual intercourse and each has an orgasm. And that's why I say maybe that's not real. Maybe that's just what the movies tell us is real.
Exactly. Most women would not have orgasms from the kind of sex you see in the movies. 70% of us need direct clitoral stimulation in order to climax.
So that's what you were hoping, that this device would allow you to have orgasms during sex?
Yes, during sexual intercourse. And just, again, in what I think is a normal way, but you have absolutely washed that out of my mind. I no longer know what's normal. So that's wonderful, because that's a brand new start.
Charletta was enrolled in a clinical trial for women with FSD, despite the fact that she was healthy.
The heck with that disease stuff.
How many women risk being taken advantage of because of a lack of comprehensive sex education?
What about sex education in America? It seems to me there's an interesting double standard there. Very soon we'll see some sort of orgasm pill or orgasm nasal spray. And we're teaching people abstinence only in our schools.
Did any of you get abstinence-only sex ed training? You did?
Well, it was the woman who was teaching the class. First of all, divided the guys up in one room and the girls in the other, and she was about 80 years old, very, very traditional, and was like, sex is bad, so don't have it until you're married.
What about the bees and the birds? To me, they're just words, honey. What about the bees and the birds? To me, they're just words, honey.
And our health teacher, like every time she told us about another form of contraception or STD prevention, she would just say, well, you don't need to know this because you're not having sex till you're married, and then when you are married, you're not allowed to use birth control anyway. Because if you use contraception while you're married, you'll go to hell.
Do you think that it affected you at all?
Like, oh, no, not at all.
I was going to college, and my godfather had a talk with me saying, you know, wait until you finish college. After college, then go ahead and have sex. But my same godfather had a conversation with my brother who said, have as much sex as you can possibly in college.
So what would you all say has been your primary source for sex education or information?
Peers. So your peers have shaped you the most and given you the most information?
Yeah.
I'm into good vibrations now. Not just young women, older women, women the age of their mothers, women the age of their grandmothers, and they're not sure where their clitoris is. How are those women who can't find the parts of their body that might help them feel the best supposed to function sexually? Is a drug going to help them? Maybe if it has a map of the clitoris on the box. I hope nobody steals my idea.
Mama's got the machine, best sex machine you'd ever see.
I'm Dr. Carol Queen, and I'm the curator of the vibrators.
Oh, Mama's got the machine, the best sex machine you'd ever see.
One of the reasons I love these antique vibrators is because my first vibrator was an antique vibrator, a Stimulax Junior, very much like this one. And I read in a women's magazine in about 1973 about vibrators and thought, isn't that what my parents have in the hall closet? I ran down, I dug it out, and I snuck it back up to my room. I turned it on. It was my very first orgasm. After that, I was not gonna put the thing back. And sorry to say that my parents never asked me for it back. So clearly I was getting a lot more out of it than they ever did.
Do the backseat mambo, turn about it all day.
The reason we have vibrators today is because over 100 years ago, in the late 19th century, doctors were using vibrators to treat a disease in women called hysteria. When a woman who had hysterical symptoms would go and see her doctor, and her doctor would apply vibration, and she would have a hysterical paroxysm of relief, something that today we would call an orgasm. And by the end of the 19th century, some sources estimated that 3/4 of women suffered from hysteria. Those of them who could afford to do so went to their doctors on a weekly, sometimes more frequent basis, and it was a big business. We no longer call hysteria a disease at all. And what it probably was a combination of stress and women's hard work, plus sexual deprivation and inability to get all the way through a sexual response cycle. In a lot of ways, female sexual dysfunction is the hysteria of this century. It's a new way of putting a lens on women's sexual experience from a distinctly medical perspective.
Women need to feel entitled to their sexual response. They need to go to their doctors and demand to be heard and demand treatment because it is available. And I guess my
Urologist Jennifer Berman and sex therapist Laura Berman were the first to really brand the condition of FSD.
Jennifer Berman are pioneers in the new...
They have become the pseudo-celebrities associated with this particular dysfunction. In 2001, they wrote the first popular book on FSD and used it to launch a huge marketing campaign.
This is a device that was developed to enhance genital blood flow. And
what Viagra does is it increases the blood flow to the genital area.
You crave sex, you can't stand sex.
Within a very short time, they had their own TV shows, a call-in radio program,
Want to have sex.
a syndicated newspaper column, and sex clinics.
From the Berman Center in downtown Chicago, it's time to talk about your love life. The Dr. Laura Berman Show. No men allowed. This is all about women.
Hi, welcome to the Berman Center. My name's Naya, and I'm the patient concierge. I just wanted to introduce myself. If you want to follow me, you'll meet with the sex therapist. The sex therapist will be looking to determine if there's any emotional or relationship issues that may be contributing to the patient's problem for coming in today.
You want me to talk to you or talk to the camera? The Berman Center is really sort of a culmination of my professional dreams over the past 10 to 15 years I've been working in this field. Well, my husband, he's the one who raised the money to open the center, but also he wears a business hat in a way that I, as a clinician, don't. So it's really a nice marriage, literally and professionally.
If vibrators were recommended, if lubricants were recommended, it would be at the patient concierge point that we would go through them and talk about them and answer any questions that they had.
So you were really involved at the beginning.